Okay, here we are, Election Day 2024. It hasn't happened yet. I'm videoing this in Australia. I think you guys are all voting soon, and then I'll find out when I wake up tomorrow who won. I don't know who's going to win. It seems really close. The polls seem to understate Trump every time, but who knows? It's to every chance that Kamala could win. But the video I want to say is I don't really care what the outcome is. I think Trump's won already. Everything's changed now. It's totally different. I could do a longer form video on it, but the West has been spiraling downwards for maybe 100 years, 2 world wars and an international war on terror distracted us for a bit. The 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s had an incredible period of artistic achievement with the sound, the music revolutions of the 60s and the 90s. It's the greatest honor of my life that I lived through the 90s. But that has stopped happening now. We've got no wars on. And that Barack Obama period was so negative. The word of the day was deconstruction, and the people that were our cultural leaders wanted to deconstruct everything and label everything that came before us as broken, and every category and every hierarchy and every system. You could only see the negative connotations on it. I mean, you go get a map and you look up where Vienna is. Vienna was under siege twice by non-Europeans, I think 3 times if you consider the Hun. And then you go look at the other side of Europe, and the Moors made it all the way as far as Tours, T-O-U-R-S, in France, which is like fucking hours drive from Paris, man. Thank God for Charles the Hammer Martel, right? I mean, we had so much on our plate, not to mention Vikings and famines and plagues and dark ages. And yeah, out of those things came some structures and some systems. And the whole world that I've lived through has been an attempt to deconstruct everything that came forward, plus some really cool things like the Harry Potter books or the Lord of the Rings or whatever happened. But those Barack Obama years, there was an absence of art. I mean, fucking 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight, right? Those were the big things. But everyone was deconstructing so hard. But now Trump's come along, and he is a builder. He is literally a builder. Well, I'm sure he's never picked up a hammer, but he does build things. He brought hope. He brought something that, like, we could be great again. He brought this idea that it wasn't about finding out what your ancestors did and hating them for it, and that what you were and that what you became and the way your last name is constructed and the nationality in your passport and the flag that flies on your national day were reasons to find why those things were wrong. Every statue was just a thing to be taken down. He made us sort of believe that we could build them again. There was something to be proud of in that nation's flag, and that who you were and what your ancestors did got you somewhere, and that you could do it again and that you could build. I'm not saying for a second it was all Trump. He was just the biggest figure in this process. There were lots of little guys on social media that were trying to tell me how to eat more protein and what to do at the gym and how to have a better relationship with my wife and about building a legacy for my family and how to raise my kids better, and that we might all be proud of ourselves and that we might once again be something that isn't something to apologize for. But Trump seemed to be the big figurehead behind it all. And regardless of what you think of him, boy, didn't they come for him. I mean, they fucking came for him. I mean, here's a few things I don't believe. I don't believe he was a Russian asset. They went at that so long and so hard without any sort of, like, the words allegedly out of the front of it. They were just calling him that forever. False. It was false. It all blew aside. And then there was that horse-faced hooker, whatever her name was, Stormy Daniels. And so what? Like, this dude had an affair, and he's clearly the sort of guy that has an affair. I'd be very surprised if his marriage wasn't a sort of arranged marriage of convenience with plenty of prenups in it, and Melania's getting a rich Baron Trump to a rich guy, and Trump does what he was. I mean, he's a known playboy, and he had to pay her to be quiet. I mean, it seems that she's the bad guy. And all this stuff about body shaming and revenge porn, suddenly everyone had no problem dragging through the mud that he had a mushroom dick and that he fucked a horse-faced hooker and all this sort of stuff. That's not what I thought we were doing anymore. And he stood up through all of that. And then his lawyer, who paid her $160,000, got wiped out for putting that expense in the wrong code on a profit and loss statement. He hid it in other expenses, which a lot of people do. And quite frankly, if it's non-pertinent to the user of the financial report, it might well be the right thing to do. So they try to destroy him on that. And then there was the Mar-a-Lago thing, trying to say that that thing was worth $14 million. I mean, he bought it for $10 million in the 80s. There are properties in my very lovely but shitty little city that I live in that are worth $14 million, that are 6,000 square meters. The whole property is 6,000 square meters. Mar-a-Lago, the building, the tiles on the concrete pad is 6,000 square meters. The thing itself is 70,000 square meters. And Forbes had 18 or so independent valuers put it at $380 million. And Trump, like everyone that's trying to sell a house, was saying it was worth $420 million. Yeah, that's his prerogative to try and give it a spin. He's a salesman. I mean, he would charge $250,000 for a businessman to stay there for a week or something like that. You have 100 businessmen, that's $25 million a year. That's worth the $14 million on its own. I mean, this Democrat judge and this Democrat prosecutor that were coming after him on the Mar-a-Lago thing, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was clearly the Department of Justice being weaponized to take down Trump. And then Kamala Harris, look, I don't know, I'm not saying nothing bad against, well, we'll see. I'm not saying much bad against her. Good luck to her. I hope she has a good campaign. And if she wins, good luck to her. But she's running around at the end there saying, don't vote for Donald Trump because he'll weaponize the Justice Department against his enemies. Shit, that's what she's been doing for like 2 years now. It's been 2 years that they've been going at him. And he's never bent. He's never broken. He's paid whatever he's had to pay. He's turned up in court. He's done everything he needs to. He keeps doing these rallies. He's 80 years old. He shows no sign of slowing down. And he's still fighting for everyone. He's still trying to make us believe that we can have a better tomorrow, that we don't need to be ashamed of ourselves, and that we can build again. I wonder if he's not going to be one of the greater guys that happened in the last however many years. Look, he's got a fucking shit ton of character flaws, but hey, who didn't? I hear Einstein was the same. I heard Churchill was the same. I heard that Caesar was the same. I heard that Napoleon was the same. I heard that just about every person that was 3 standard deviations from the mean, which quite frankly is what you need if you want to be extraordinary. It's got to be some sort of fucking weird arsehole. I'm sure that Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and whoever else is big at the moment, it's got to be a little different too. He came out during the 80s. If you remember the 80s, it was excess. That was the word for the 80s, and he's totally like it. It's clear that someone's come along and started talking about hope and that America is great and that everything moved against him so quickly. CNN, the entire Democrat Party, women generally just came at him so viciously, didn't give him a hearing, and they just wanted to label him every friggin' thing. Because what? He talked about hope? Because he didn't like his skin color? Because he didn't like the fact that he was ashamedly a successful male? I mean, the guy's a billionaire. It really showed that whatever controls the world, it doesn't want Donald Trump speaking. And his message is the thing that they don't want us to hear. I consider myself reasonably learned, reasonably educated, quite intelligent. Message of building and of hope and of not necessarily pride in and of itself, but that we have nothing to be ashamed of and that we do not inherit the sins of our fathers and that we can try our best to go forward and make tomorrow better than it was today, which I think is essentially the sort of message that he has, is totally legitimate. I wonder why the system doesn't want us to hear that. I've seen them say when he's talking about immigrants coming across the border, that many of them are wonderful, 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 but some of them are bad. Some of them are savages is the word he's used recently. In context, who would disagree? I mean, MS-13 and the rest of the gang's right. But they flip that to say that he's saying that everyone's a savage. And the Charlottesville thing, which everyone knows by now, he didn't call the Nazis good people. He said there were good people on both sides and then went at length to qualify that he wasn't talking about the nasty people. But, I mean, it was CNN that didn't bother to report that. I mean, can we trust those people anymore? The big thing that's changed with Trump, though, was that when I was younger, I was aware of the Republicans, and I wouldn't have, I'm Australian, I'm neither Republican nor Democrat, but I would never have been a Republican. I remember the members that met them as the ones that wanted video games to be censored because they were too violent and things, so I didn't like them. But I knew that there was sort of like a 5% of the Republican Party that believed in a thing called the deep state, which was like a conspiracy word and like Alex Jones sort of stuff, and that there were elites that controlled us all and stuff. But they were like an extreme minority. It's pretty much like half of the country I live in right now believes something like that. I mean, those are really regular discussions, and it seems that Zoomers are having those sorts of discussions as well. Maybe COVID's got a little bit to do with it too, but how everyone has mobilized against a guy that's just running for president. That's all he's doing. He's running for president and he's got a message and they just want him gone. And I'm so proud that people haven't let him be gone. Like I don't know the outcome of the election, as I said, but he's in with a chance. In 8 years, he's been attacked pilloried from one end of the world to the other. He's still standing and he's still a chance. I really like it. And look, I hope there's risk to him, but I love the fact that we aren't letting a message of hope slip away and that we aren't letting someone that can build and someone that can make us proud of ourselves again and someone that can put America first and someone that can have the balls to say that he doesn't want overseas wars and he's prepared to put tariffs on China and other countries to put American citizens first and bring jobs back to America and to secure the borders and make sure that friggin' MS-13 aren't smuggling in and other terrorists aren't coming in and guns and drugs and the rest of it. And prepared to use strong language and stand up and repeat day after day after day that you're white doesn't mean you're wrong, that you're male doesn't mean you're wrong, that just because you're American, you don't have to fund other wars, you don't have to let everyone into your country. And geez, they've taken him to task because he said things like that. It's been a real eye-opener, and I'm going to watch the whole election tomorrow. I can't wait to see what happens. Either way, there's nothing you can say about it now. The Republicans have changed forever. That deep state conspiracy theory type now seems completely pervasive through the entire party. And the Democrats are just awash in filth. When the election's over, if Trump loses and Trump goes away, then the Republicans are clean of him and they get to go forward with whatever comes next. But it will be with the people with their eyes wide open. But at every level, except for maybe that John Fetterman guy, but at every level, the Democrats have taken up this absurd notion that Donald Trump's just the worst thing to ever happen and he's a Nazi and he's a fascist and he wants us all in prison and he's got to make lists of his enemies and line them up against the wall and that he's a rapist and the rest of it. Man, they're not going to ever get themselves clean of those lies. It's going to be 10 years that those sorts of memes of the lies that they told are going to go around. So I think he's won already. Thanks very much. Thanks for listening. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want, hit like and subscribe. If you don't, it's fine. See you.